Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. You know, we talk a lot of college football on this show as well. This is sort of a college football topic, but it is also, oh, by the way, a little bit of a TMZ-ish type topic as well. But let me say this. A lot of the mainstream, college sports shows won't touch this. I'm diving 2 feet in, okay? We got to talk a little bit about Bill Belichick and that girlfriend that he's got. And it's no disrespect. It's no whatever. There they are. Look at them, the happy couple. So let's go ahead and dive in. My thing is, listen, I'm here to talk about the stuff that you want to talk about, and I will tell you this. I've gotten more texts, more DMs about this topic than any other college sports topic. You think people want to talk about the portal? No, they want to talk about what's going on with Bill Belichick, with this young lady. So TMZ Torres, this is a new segment. We're going to call him TMZ Torres. Whenever there's something like this, we're going to go ahead and dive in. But let's talk a little bit about Bill Belichick. So first of all, let me start by being very modern, very 21st century. What happens between a man and a woman in the privacy of their own home? Not my business, okay? Do I think 73-year-old man and 24-year-old woman is something that it's not normal, it's not whatever? Do I think they're going to make Disney movies out of that going forward? Probably not. We saw another, by the way, a 54-year-old former NFL tight end. He's getting in some trouble because he had a 20-year-old girl, whatever. That's completely different, okay? That has nothing to do with anything. But I'm only bringing it up because 73-year-old man, 24-year-old woman feels a little bit to me, but if they're happy, that's their business, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Same time, though, it certainly has gotten interesting. We saw the story around spring ball that basically any correspondence between the school, University of North Carolina, where he's obviously the head football coach, and Bill Belichick has to go through her. And then we had this thing on Sunday morning that made all sorts of waves. Okay, so apparently Bill Belichick has a new book out, which I wasn't even aware of. And I only bring it up because he was on CBS Sunday Morning News. It was actually Dave Portnoy that was the first one to tweet out the video that I saw. We're not going to play the video. It's like 2.5 minutes long. 2, we don't have the rights to do it, so we could just get booted off YouTube. But basically, it's a video promoting the book, but it's interesting for a few things. One, Belichick, even with his girlfriend in the building, he's wearing the old beat up holes in the t-shirt Navy shirt. Okay, so that was one. Like a lot of people, I was a little surprised that the young lady hasn't made him put on a shirt without holes. Neither here nor there, whatever. 2, what was also interesting was part of it, any question he didn't want to ask, he goes old school Belichick and he doesn't really answer it and blah, 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 and da-da-da-da-da, and it's one-word answers, 2-word answers, whatever. But what got really interesting was during the interview, this was on TV, you saw Bill Belichick asked a question about how he met his 24-year-old girlfriend. I believe her name is Jordan Hudson. Is that correct? I think it's Jordan Hudson. 24-year-old girlfriend. And as he's asking it, the girlfriend is in the room. And she says, oh, he's not answering that question. Next question, he's not answering it. And then we find out after the fact that there was 2 or 3 different times where she interrupted the interview. And we found out after the fact, by the way, that CBS actually only aired her interrupting to kind of explain why the interview was such a train wreck, okay? So train wreck interview, Sunday morning, Belichick, whatever. To me, though, it's still not a story. This is when it became a story, though. TMZ did a follow-up report on late Monday after the interview. And it's, probably a 250, 300-word article. But producer Matt put up the caption that I wanted you to get because I think there is an important part. The final 2 paragraphs, that to me is the money quote that needs to be discussed. In the article, it says the whole ordeal also isn't sitting well with Bill's employers. We're told folks at UNC are now concerned about Hudson's influence on Belichick's tenure as the head football coach in Chapel Hill, especially with her essentially taking his role as manager. As a source put it, there's a, quote, growing sense there could be a problem. All right. let's talk about this a little bit. And first of all, that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to pseudo defend this because, again, people kept asking me about it. And I'll be real. I haven't quite found it as weird as everybody else. Now, I think 73-year-old, 24-year-old, I think that's weird. Okay. Whatever. If they're happy, whatever. I'll also defend them a little bit on this because people wanted me to talk about it. It comes out during spring ball. Oh, that she handles all his, she has to be CC'd on everything, blah, 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 this and that. Same time, though, I'll defend them on that. Has anyone dealt with a 70-something-year-old in technology? Like, most 70-something-year-olds are not very good with a computer, are not very good with the internet, are not very good with email. By the way, Bill Belichick's an old school football coach. He is now in a university environment where everything has to be documented in this. He's not on his email all day. But I think more importantly, you deal with a 70-something-year-old. There's a lot of times where somebody's helping them. I'll just give you an example. My father-in-law, love him to death, 75 years old, still going strong, still goes to work every day, everything. But whenever there's something that has to go on, either my wife or my sister-in-law is involved. If it's a, correspondence with a doctor, if it's a this, if it's a that, they're in the middle of it. And when I saw Jordan Hudson CC'd on all his emails, I was like, that's like my life. I mean, whatever. He's old. Whatever. He's old. Who cares? And then I'll also say this is that even during the interview, when she kind of interrupted, I'll also say this as somebody who does interviews all the time on college campuses. There's usually somebody in the room. Now, it's usually not a girlfriend. It's usually an administrator from the school. But if they think there's a question that's going to make an athlete or a coach look bad, they jump in all the time. So again, to me, most of it wasn't that weird. But then I will say, when you see the interview, when you see the mannerisms, by the way, producer Matt, you can go ahead and pop up the Nicole Auerbach tweet. So apparently, the girlfriend on her Instagram page is now posting Bill Belichick's personal emails. Now, this one is basically complaining about the interview, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's time for Torres to say, like, I try to look at the best of everything. I think it's time to say it's a little bit time to be worried, okay? Because first of all, I'll say this. It's one thing you want to date, you want to do whatever, blah, blah, blah. When your employer is worried, I think that's when it's safe to say that this thing probably isn't going well. Again, one thing if there's a 50-year age difference. One thing if there's a generational gap where she's helping them fill in. It's another thing when the employer is telling TMZ, yeah, this is starting to worry us a little bit. We can't get a hold of them. She has too much control. And I'll say this, like, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not trying to jump in and psychoanalyze anybody. If you watch the full segment on Bill Belichick and you can watch it, you can tell that she's trying to take control. But two, this is what concerns me. She's posting personal information on her Instagram. And so what this strikes me as is that this is a 24-year-old that very clearly has never been in the public spotlight before, has never taken criticism. I saw something else where she was retweeting people that were defending her. And I'll just say this, starting to feel like a little bit of a train wreck. And when I think about the Bill Belichick era, I'll say this. I've already gone through the 7 stages with Bill Belichick. When he got hired at UNC, I kind of thought it was going to be a disaster. He comes in with it's a professional model now, and we'll spend money. And it's like, well, everybody has money. Like, sorry, Bill Belichick, you're not going to have any more money than Ohio State has, than Tennessee has, than Georgia has, than Michigan has, than whatever. So I was just like, dude, is he going to do the work? Is he going to put in the time? Because it isn't just bring this player in, kick this player out. You have to build relationships. Everybody's got money to get the players that you need to win at the highest levels. I'm sorry, you need more than just a little bit of money. Everybody's got money. You need something else. Ohio State has just as much money. Alabama has just as much money. Georgia has just as much money. So I was kind of out on the Belichick thing to begin with. Then I will say, early in the process, it seemed pretty clear that he was at least willing to try to recruit. I remember talking about this probably in January, but number 1 quarterback in America, Jared Curtis, basically was doing the number 1 quarterback in the class of 2026 was doing the in-home visits round where he basically brought in coaches from all over the country. Dan Lanning was there, Kirby Smart was there, and Bill Belichick was there. So I sat there and thought, maybe, just maybe, this is going to work out. Maybe he's willing to put in the work. But I'll tell you this kind of has me feeling like it's just going to be a train wreck. That maybe he doesn't really have as much control as he used to. I'll be honest, it kind of looked like maybe she has too much control. This is not the Bill Belichick that I remember from New England. This is not the we're on to Cincinnati. I mean, it might be a kinder, softer Bill Belichick, but North Carolina didn't hire the kinder, softer Bill Belichick. Now, what'll be interesting is the ACC is so bad it might not matter. And I was looking at the North Carolina schedule on Tuesday before we did this segment. They do play Clemson first week in November, but no Florida State, no Miami, no SMU. So there's a chance it's pretty good. But I'll be honest, I've never really bought that he was totally invested in the collegiate model. Two, this whole relationship thing is weird. I think she has too much control, too much say. I think, frankly, he cares too much about what she has to say about stuff. I have a feeling this is going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad. I think what it's really honestly going to be, you know what I think it's going to be? I think it's going to be forgettable. I think it's going to be, everybody talks about like Willie Mays with the New York Mets, kind of just like this train wreck at the end of a career. I always reference, remember Patrick Ewing played for the Seattle Supersonics and the Orlando Magic. We only remember Patrick Ewing with the Knicks, but he played with the Sonics. He played with the Orlando Magic. Hakeem Olajuwon, if you remember, played for like a game or two with the Toronto Raptors. This is feeling like Hakeem in a Raptors uniform. I think in like 30 years, we'll be like, oh, remember that like 1 to 2 years that Belichick was at North Carolina and it was kind of a disaster and he had that girlfriend, whatever. Yeah. So there's TMZ Torres with your Torres update. But apparently North Carolina not happy with Bill Belichick right now.